in the outer solar system, beyond the shipping lanes and the jurisdiction of anyone who would care, a crew of 6 people is 4 days out from the worst thing they have ever survived. They did not know each other before this job. That is not unusual in the belt. What is unusual is that they are still alive. The Veiled Constant is a serialized sci-fi noir audiobook. 6 chapters have come before this one. You do not need them. What you need is this. An operator named Kira Voss took a contract to kill a man. The job was clean. The job was never clean. She found a pattern in the target's financial records she could not name, and the body would not let her forget it. A first officer named Marcus Wu filed that same pattern as the route of a convoy that did not yet exist. 8 months before it existed, something had planned it before any of them were in the room. A captain named Amara Dumas was 72 hours from losing her ship to a creditor's seizure when a job offer arrived from people she had no reason to trust, with terms she could not refuse. She took it. She has not decided yet whether that was a choice. There are others. A man who has been legally dead for 13 years. A corporate analyst whose company was destroyed to protect a supply chain she was never supposed to find. An archaeologist who smuggled something out of the ruins of Titan that he believed was dormant. He was wrong about dormant. Each of them has seen the same pattern. None of them has spoken it to the others. The pattern is older than any of them. The pattern was here before their parents were born. Something has been arranging people for a very long time, and the 6 people on this ship are what that arrangement looks like when it is nearly finished. And now we present the second arc. Chapter 7. The Dead Frequency. Day 4 after Ganymede. The vent cycled twice. It should have cycled once. Kira filed it. She filed everything this morning. The Morning Star was under burn. She had not been under burn in 76 hours. And the engines that had been silent for 3 days were a sound that came up through the deck plate the way a sleeping man's voice came up out of a long quiet. Kira had her boots on the bridge floor and her hand flat on the navigator's console, and the body under her flight suit was recalibrating to a ship that was going somewhere. Acceleration on the right side of her ribs. Vibration through the bones of her left foot, which was the side of her body that registered the Morning Star's harmonics the way other people registered weather. The ship was alive again. The ship was alive again, and the vent was wrong. She listened. 45 seconds. The vent did not cycle a third time. She let the body register the wrongness and did not name it. There was a great deal to do today, and the body was going to be wrong about a number of things before the day ended, and operators who chased every wrongness through every shift did not finish a day's work. She had been doing this for 15 years. She knew how to carry a wrong thing in her chest without dropping the work it was sitting next to. Amara was in the pilot's seat. Yuki was at the operations console with the false signal half-built across 2 displays. Marcus was at the tactical station, the 7-point pattern from the convoy data open behind him on a secondary screen, as it had been for 3 days. Devon was below decks in engineering running the burn at the housing, because Devon had run the Morning Star's burns at the housing for 12 years, and Amara had stopped telling him to. Kareem was somewhere in the lower compartments. Kira did not know exactly where. She had a guess. Marcus and Kira had been on the Morning Star for 8 days. They were not Amara's crew. They were the operators who had hired Amara's ship to run a contract Marcus had taken 8 days ago, in a backroom meeting on Halberd Freeport that Kira had attended without speaking. The captain in the pilot's seat, 10 feet from Kira, was a woman Kira had known for 8 days, who was running a transit that was not her idea, toward a buyer who was not her contact, with cargo that did not belong to her, on a ship she was about to lose if the handoff did not complete clean. The asteroid's shadow was behind them, 22 minutes of burn, and it would no longer be on the proximity envelope. They had left the only thing that had been hiding them for 3 days, and they had done it because the buyer was on a clock, and the cargo was on a clock, and sitting in the dark was a slower form of dying than this. "Course," Amara said. "Holding." Yuki's voice came flat from her console. "Vector 41 Mark 12. Projected rendezvous in 9 hours 40. Burn down to cruise at 30 minutes. Confirmed. Kira watched the void on the forward display. The void was the void. Nothing on the periphery. Nothing on the envelope. Nothing they had reason to see. Except. She filed the except. She had been on this bridge for 11 minutes, and the body had already given her 3 small wrongnesses she had not yet named. The vent. The way the acceleration was sitting on her ribs at a slightly different angle than the Morning Star's previous burns. The air in the bridge moving on her cheek when nothing in the room should have been moving it. 3 things. Possibly nothing. She filed the possibly nothing, too. She was running her own sweep on the buyer side intelligence at 1100 when the terminal pinged. She was alone in the observation bay, the only space on the Morning Star with a separate processor that could run encrypted sweeps without surfacing on the main bridge log. Marcus had built the partition 2 years back. They used it for the work neither of them wanted on the captain's network. She had been pulling on the Belt Economy databases since the all-hands briefing at 0900. Tomas Rios's signature against 3 other names Amara trusted. The consortium's recent purchase patterns, the question of whether Outer Belt independence meant anything more than a name a group of small operators had agreed to use for the duration of one purchase. The work was the work. It was also a thing to do with her hands, while the body said all the things it was saying. The terminal pinged. It was not the buyer side sweep returning. It was the second sweep she had set running before the buyer work. The one she had not told Marcus about. The one that watched the bounty boards under 3 different identifier protocols, and pinged her if her face surfaced. Her face had surfaced. She read what was on the screen. A photograph, sharp, identifiable. The contact in Bay 23C, Europa Station, 30 days ago. The woman with the forgettable coveralls who had known Kira's movements before the job existed. Below the photograph, priority, acquisition, alive or dead. Jupiter system, last known. Below that, a number, 300,000 interstellar credits, 6 times what Castellano had paid for the original contract. The kind of money professionals planned around, the kind of money that did not arrive alone. She closed the terminal. The ceramic blade strapped along the inside of her left forearm shifted 0.5 millimeter against the skin and settled. She had been wearing the blade for 9 years. She had stopped noticing it years ago. She noticed it now. She got up and went to find Marcus. He was already at the tactical station, the display casting blue across the angles of his face. He looked up when she came in. His expression did not change, which meant he had beaten her to it. "When did you pull it?" she said. "Oh, 910. She had been running her own sweep since 0950. He had beaten her by 40 minutes. "You didn't tell the captain." "You didn't either." She sat. The seat creaked. The bridge ran warm now, engines under burn, the recycler keeping up, but the temperature gradient running a few degrees higher than it had in shadow. 300,000, Marcus said. "I saw. That buys serious resources, not opportunists." He turned the terminal toward her. "I ran the sourcing while you were down." She leaned forward. It took her a beat to read what was on the screen. The bounty posting had 2 separate origin signatures, different wallet infrastructure, different routing protocols, posting timestamps separated by 4 hours and 17 minutes, both pointing at the same target, both offering the same reward, neither showing any awareness that the other existed. 2 separate entities had placed the same bounty on her, independently, within the same half-day window. "One for the delivery chain," she said. "The Titan data pad, the contact who knew your movements before the job existed." Marcus's voice was flat, the voice he used when he was building a case and did not want her to interrupt. "Placed 36 hours after we left Titan." "And the other?" "Someone got a description out of the convoy before they were fully neutralized." He closed the terminal. 2 operations, neither aware of the other. Both land on your face inside the same 12-hour window. They didn't place the bounty to find me. One of them did. The other placed it because the first one did, to get there first. Marcus said nothing. The silence was the silence of a man who had reached the same conclusion and had been waiting for her to arrive. "Timing," she said. 12 hours after Ganymede. Not after Titan. Not after the convoy. After we went dark in the shadow with a comm array still broadcasting on frequencies we don't use. She turned to him. "Something is using the fracture," he said. "Yuki flagged it 2 days ago. The pattern is too regular for drift. Whatever's been using it has been using it since we loaded the convoy cargo." A channel. Anyone in the inner belt with the right receiver could have triangulated our position in the gas giant atmosphere. Anyone with it could have followed us to the shadow. Anyone with it could have placed a bounty within 12 hours of the raid. She did the math. 2 factions listening to the same signal, neither one knowing the other was there, and then both of them activating on her face inside the same half-day. And now the Morning Star was under burn toward a rendezvous with a buyer the bounty holders did not yet know about. on a channel they were probably still listening to. "We can't make the handoff," she said. "We have to. They're going to triangulate the meeting. We don't have the credit margin to skip it. The cargo is hot. Without the consortium money, we don't make it through the month. Amara has run the numbers." "And the buyer?" Marcus was quiet for a beat. "If they triangulate us at the rendezvous, they triangulate the buyer too. Rios's whole consortium walks into the same window we're in." "Does Amara know that?" "She knows." The cold that had been sitting in Kira's chest since the bounty surfaced sharpened into something more specific. She watched him. She had spent 6 years watching him. She had spent 6 years on operations where the decisions she watched him make were the decisions she had agreed to before he made them. And the decisions were the kinds of decisions that did not have clean exits. She had been there in the backroom meeting on Halbert Freeport 8 days ago when Marcus had taken the contract. She had watched him decide to take it. She had watched him decide which captain to hire for it. She had not, until this moment, thought through the question of why this captain. She did it now. There were 40 captains in the inner belt who would have taken a contract this size. Marcus had needed exactly one of them, the one whose ship could survive the convoy intercept, whose hand could put a freighter through a Ganymede storm at full burn with 2 corporate cutters on her stern, whose cold burn discipline could hide a hot ship in an asteroid's shadow for 3 days without venting heat. The belt had one of those captains, belt operators who had run with her, against her, or under her authority during the coalition decade, had spent the years since agreeing on it without needing to say it out loud. Amara Dumas was the best pilot anyone in the inner system had ever flown with. The work the contract required could not have been done by anyone else. That was the operational reason. There was also the other reason. Amara was in her late 20s, had been running the Morning Star since her father passed for the last 6 years, had a crew of 2 who had been with her those 6 years respectively, and had a ship that needed 200,000 ISK of structural work she had been deferring for 3 cycles. Marcus had told Kira none of that. Marcus had not needed to tell Kira any of that. Marcus had told her, "I have the captain," and Kira had filed, "I have the captain," the way she filed everything Marcus said about operational choices, as something he had reasoned out and reasoned correctly. He had reasoned out 2 things, and reasoned both correctly. The best pilot in the belt was Amara Dumas, and the best pilot in the belt was, for the first time in 6 years, in a financial situation that made her hireable for a contract she would otherwise have refused on operational risk alone. The 2 facts had arrived at Marcus's desk in the same week. He had not made them line up. He had only looked at the alignment and acted on it. He had walked into a back room on Halberd 8 days ago and offered a desperate woman the money that fixed her ship, knowing she was the only person alive who could fly the job, knowing she would say yes for the reason she would say yes, and knowing the saying, yes would put her in a corner she would not have walked into voluntarily. He had known what he was doing. Kira sat with that. It was not the worst thing Marcus had ever done. It was not the worst thing she had ever watched him do without naming it. It was in the partition with the other things. Iapetus, The two contracts before bad precedent. The operations the bonded pair had run for 6 years, where the question of who pays for this when it goes wrong had been answered every time, in someone else's currency. The hard part was that the choice had been correct. Hiring anyone else would have gotten everyone on this ship killed in the first hour of the intercept. Amara was the reason the Morning Star had survived a Ganymede storm and a 3-day cold burn, and was now 12 hours from a clean handoff. The operational logic was clean. The operational logic was the cleanest logic in the partition. It was the cleanness that was the wrong thing. She filed it. She filed it with the rest of the things she was filing tonight. She watched Marcus too long. He read her face the way he always read her face. "You're somewhere else," he said. She did not look at him. It was the question he asked twice a year. The 6-year partnership had its accumulated rules, and one of them was that Marcus did not press her unless what she was carrying threatened the work. He had asked it after Vesta. He had asked it after Iapetus. He was asking it now. She thought about telling him. She thought about saying, "I just understood why we are on this ship and not on another one. The captain in the pilot's seat is the best pilot in the inner system, and you knew that, and you also knew her ship was 3 slip fees away from being repossessed, and you used both. The math worked. The math is still working. The math is the part that should be making me feel better, and it is not." "Just tired," she said. He looked at her a half-second longer than the answer required. He did not push. The all-hands met at 11:45. Amara on the pilot's seat with her father's pendant in her hand rather than around her neck. Marcus laid out the bounty intelligence. Methodical. No editorializing. The 2 postings, the signatures, the 12-hour activation window, the fracture used as a channel, the math on the buyer side, exposure. Kira watched him deliver. She had been watching Marcus deliver threat assessments for 6 years. She knew the small adjustment he made, which she had never seen him make for anyone else, when she was the threat being assessed. He did not look at her when he said her name. He kept his eyes on Amara. When he was done, Amara was quiet. For a count, Kira measured at 8 seconds. "This is your contract," Amara said. "It is your call to abort. I have not made one. Make one." Marcus did not answer immediately. Kira watched him weigh it. He was weighing exactly what she had been watching him fail to weigh for the 8 days since Halberd, and he was weighing it now in front of the woman whose ship he had hired, with both eyes open. He could call the abort. He could end the contract, refund what credits remained, walk Amara and her crew out of the situation he had put them in. The cargo would stay hot. The Morning Star would lose its cut. Amara would lose her ship inside the month. Devon would lose his wages. Yuki would lose the only crew she had worked with for 6 years. Marcus knew all of that. He had known all of it for 8 days. "I am not aborting," he said. "Then you are completing." "I am completing." "Tell me why." He did look at Kira this time. The look was a half-second. He did it because she was the only person on the bridge who already knew the answer to Amara's question, and he was checking to see whether she was going to let him say it or whether she was going to say it for him. She let him. "The cargo cannot be moved a second time," Marcus said. "Rios is the only buyer who will take it at the price we need. If we abort now, we do not have a contract. We have stolen corporate property in the hold of a ship that cannot legally dock at any inner system station. The Morning Star will not survive that. Your crew will not survive that. Aborting costs your ship. Completing might cost your ship. The probabilities favor completing." Amara watched him. "The probabilities favor completing." "Yes. For me. For everyone. For me first." Amara was not asking. She was confirming the structure of the sentence Marcus had just delivered. "Your math runs my survival before everyone else's, because if I do not survive, the rest of the math collapses." "Yes." Amara set the pendant down on the console. "You should have told me on Halberd," she said. "You knew on Halberd." "I did know on Halberd. I am telling you that you should have told me anyway." The bridge was quiet. Yuki did not look up from her console. Kira did not look at Marcus. Marcus did not look away from Amara. "I have heard you," Amara said. "I am not arguing the threat. I am telling you what I will do. The handoff happens. Yuki's signal goes live. We arrive at the rendezvous with a fabricated position telling anyone listening that we are 6 light hours from where we actually are. The cluster gives us cover that no flat space rendezvous would. We complete the deal, we pull back, we go quiet, we move." "And if they triangulate the buyer," Kira said. Amara looked at her. "Rios accepted the rendezvous knowing what we are carrying and what we are carrying it through. He has run his own math. The consortium has decided the cargo is worth the risk." Her voice did not change. "We do not save Rios's people by aborting. We save them by completing the deal cleanly and being gone before anyone arrives. We do not save my crew by aborting either. We save them by being the ship that completed the contract Marcus took and walked away with the money he promised." Yuki spoke from her console without turning. "Signal is ready. I can go live on your word. Hold until 1400. "Confirmed." Amara looked at each of them in turn. "Marcus, you're with me on the shuttle to Rios. You introduce this buyer. You shake his hand. I am there because the Morning Star is the vessel of record. Kira on Overwatch with us. Verification tablet, credit check. You watch the buyer's people watch Marcus. If something is wrong in that meeting, you tell me through the suit channel. Yuki holds the signal and runs sensor sweeps every 30 seconds from the bridge. Devon stays on the engines hot. Kareem stays below decks until we are clear of the cluster." She picked the pendant up. "We will have one window. We will not get a second." She settled the pendant around her neck. "Anything else?" Kira opened her mouth. She closed it. The body was wrong about more things than it had been wrong about 2 hours ago. The vent had cycled twice, 3 more times. The temperature gradient on her right cheek was at a wrongness she could not have explained to a captain on the morning of a handoff. The air in the bridge moved on her neck twice while Marcus had been delivering the threat brief, and both times she had turned her head and seen nothing. And both times the training had said, "The body is correct," and she had filed the body's correctness as fatigue. She could not give Amara fatigue right now. Amara was carrying enough. "Nothing for the meeting," she said. Amara watched her for a half-second longer than the answer required. She did not push. "Stations." They dispersed. Kira stopped at the operations console on the way off the bridge. Yuki was running final checks on the false signal architecture. Kira watched her work. Yuki had been the Morning Star's operations engineer for 9 years. Her station was hers in a way the rest of the ship was not. She knew the seat's wear pattern. She knew the indicator light on the 3rd row that ran half a shade dim. She knew the difference between fan drift and any other sound the console could make. She knew the array's fracture pattern. Kira had not asked on the bridge why Yuki had built her watch parameters on the fracture in the first place. She had a guess. The guess was confirmed when Yuki looked up. "The fracture is not what we think it is," Yuki said. "Tell me." "The cadence is moving. Equipment damage drifts in one direction. This is drifting in patterns. It is the same register as the slingshot calculation, the same register as the cannon shot, the creditor system, the 12-second backup delay, the same register as all 5 of the entries." Kira sat with that. "You are saying the fracture is not a flaw. Something is exploiting." "I am saying the fracture is a channel something opened. And whatever opened it has been using it." "Yes." Kira looked at Yuki's notation. The handwriting was careful. Yuki's grandfather had taught her, in a shop on the lower levels of New Kyoto, that information you might be the only person to remember should be written in a hand that did not blur when you looked at it later under pressure. The notation was readable. The word "deliberate" was circled. "Have you told the captain?" "Not today. Not today." "She is running a handoff." Yuki's voice was quiet. "I can carry this for 1 cycle." The two of them stood at the console with the word "deliberate" circled on the notation between them. "After the handoff," Kira said. "After the handoff." Kira walked the corridor toward the lower compartments. She did not turn her head when she passed the bulkhead. The body said it is in the corridor. The training said the body is correct again. She filed it as fatigue and kept walking. She did not go into engineering. She stopped at the hatch and looked through it. Devon was at the housing, running the burn, kettle on a low burner beside the reactor, as it had been every shift for 12 years. He did not look up. He knew she was there. Devon had known when people stopped at his hatch since before Amara had been born. He did not need a sensor. Kareem was at the workbench on the far bulkhead, not against the wall, not sitting, working. He had a panel pulled, 3 diagnostic cables run from a junction housing to a portable terminal, and his hands were moving the way the hands of a man who had spent 13 years reading hardware moved when the hardware was not telling him what he expected to hear. He looked up. He looked up the way a man looked up when he had known she was at the hatch for 90 seconds and had been waiting to see whether she would stay there or come in. She did not go in. He nodded. Once. The nod meant I am here. It meant I am working. It meant the work is not what you think it is. She nodded back. Her nod meant, "I see you." It meant we have a handoff. It meant we will talk after. She turned and walked to the upper decks. Devon, behind her, did not turn around. The kettle was running. The cluster came up on the forward display at 1947. Yuki had been holding the false signal live for 6 hours. The Morning Star's broadcast position said the ship was 6 light hours behind them, drifting on a vector toward Halberd Free Port. Anyone listening on the channel that had been using their fracture was hearing a Morning Star that did not exist. The real Morning Star was running cold into a debris field 300 years old. The cluster had once been a mining operation, then a mining accident. The debris field was the cemetery, broken refinery hulks, drifting habitat modules cored to vacuum, 6 asteroids that had been chewed hollow and abandoned in the same orbital lane. The chart called the cluster Cast 9. Belt operators called it the Boneyard. Nothing official went through it. The kinds of operations that did not file flight plans. Tomas Rios's ship was inside the cluster. Yuki had been pinging the agreed handshake frequency since 1900. The handshake had come back at 1934. Vessel present. Vector matched, standing by, no transponder, no identifiers. The kind of professionalism that meant Rios had done this before. Amara took the Morning Star into the cluster on thrusters at 6%. The bridge went quiet. Kira had been in quieter bridges in her life and could not remember when. Marcus at the tactical station running passive sensor sweeps. Yuki at operations, hands flat. Amara at the pilot's controls with the pendant inside her flight suit collar. The asteroids passed on either side at distances Kira could measure in meters. The Morning Star's thrusters fired in micro-bursts, 20 milliseconds at a time. The engines barely producing heat the cluster's ambient field would not absorb. It took them 41 minutes to reach the rendezvous point. Rios's vessel was a converted tug, old, patched, the kind of ship that had been moving cargo through the belt for 30 years without anyone bothering to update its registry. 2 cargo pods on the sides, neither of them empty. Inside the cluster, in the absolute silence of the asteroids, the tug looked like exactly what it was, a working ship belonging to working people, here to do work. Amara opened the suit channel. "Voss, with me." Kira stood. She had been sitting at the tactical station behind Marcus for the duration of the approach. She picked up the pressure helmet and the verification tablet and crossed the bridge. Marcus. He did not look up from his sweep. "Overwatch." He nodded. She passed Yuki's console on the way to the airlock. Yuki did not look up either. The fan in the equipment rack under her console was running at the irregular interval Yuki had stopped meaning to fix 9 years ago. The body said, "Something is wrong." The body had been saying that for 13 hours. She put on the helmet. The shuttle ran tether and thrust between the Morning Star and Rios's tug. 8 minutes. Amara at the controls. The second best pilot in the cabin would have done it, but the second best pilot in the cabin was Marcus, and Amara was Amara. Marcus in the right-hand seat, Kira behind them. Neither of the people in the front spoke. Amara's pendant clinked once against the inside of her suit collar during a course correction. The tug's airlock cycled. Tomas Rios was waiting on the other side. He was a belter in his late 50s, 3 generations of mining in his face. The way the cheekbones sat, the way the eyes had calibrated to working light, the small differences from spinward gravity that became permanent after a generation. He wore a pressure suit with the helmet off. The suit was old. The wear on it was the wear of a man who had spent more of his working life in a suit than out of one. His eyes went to Marcus first. They held there. He had been told by the go-between who had connected him to Marcus's contract what to look for. Marcus had been told the same. Neither of them had met the other before this moment. They had both shaken the same hand of the man who worked 1 layer above Rios and 1 layer below the buyer behind the consortium. And that man's description had been good enough on both sides that Rios's eyes did not need to ask Marcus's name. He took Marcus's hand. Mr. Wu. Mr. Rios. You came through clean. Yuki Tanaka's work. She built the cover signal. This is Captain Dumas, the vessel of record. Voss, operator, verification. Rios's eyes moved to Amara, held, then to Kira, held the same length. He had been told there would be 3 people. He had not been told who. He did not ask. Kira watched him not ask and filed that too. He took Amara's hand the way one captain took another captain's hand and held it for the count. Captain Dumas, I have heard your name in 3 places this year. All 3 said the same thing. That is rarely a compliment. It is when one of the 3 is halberd operations control. Rios's voice was dry. They said you should not have made it out of the coalition decade alive, and the only people they tell that to are the ones who did. Amara did not answer. Behind Rios, 2 other belters, both younger, both armed. The arms were holstered. The holsters were unsnapped. Kira filed the holsters. The cargo, Rios said. Manifest is on my tablet, Marcus said. Verification on yours. Marcus opened the verification protocol. Rios opened his. The tablets handshook on a wired connection. No wireless inside the cluster. The belters running the same operational discipline the Morning Star was running. The cargo manifest crossed. Rios read it. His face did not change. His face did not change in the specific way that meant he was looking at exactly what he had paid to receive. All accounted. All accounted. Credits will transfer on confirmation of physical inspection. My people will go to your hold. My partner will accompany them. Marcus nodded at Kira. Captain Dumas remains here with you for the close. Kira nodded. The 2 belters behind Rios were already moving toward the inner airlock that connected to the tug's small egg cargo bay, where the Morning Star would tether and transfer. It took 43 minutes. The cargo was confirmed. The crates the Morning Star had pulled off the convoy 3 days ago, 6 of them, contained what Rios had expected. Industrial-grade refinery modules of the kind small belt operations could not legally buy from corporate suppliers and could not realistically afford even when they could. The consortium had pooled credits across 11 independent operations to make the buy. 11 operations now had access to refinery capacity that would let them process their own ore for the next decade. The corporate suppliers would never sell to them. Without operations like Marcus's, None of those 11 would survive past the next licensing cycle. This was the work. The credits transferred at 2,114. 312,000 ISK into the Morning Star's primary account. The credit confirmation pinged on Marcus's tablet. Rios read his own. The two men shook hands a second time. Then Rios turned to Amara and offered his hand again. "Captain, Mr. Rios, be safe out of the cluster. You as well." Marcus, Amara, and Kira cycled back through the tug's airlock. The shuttle disengaged from the tether. 8 minutes of run back to the Morning Star. The shuttle's small forward display showed Rios's tug already pulling back from the rendezvous point on a vector that would take it out the cluster's far side, on a heading toward whatever the consortium had planned for the cargo. Amara did not speak on the run back. Marcus did not either. Kira watched them not speak. Marcus had asked nothing of Amara since the airlock, and Amara had offered nothing. The captain's hands on the shuttle controls were steady. Kira had watched those hands shake exactly once, 3 years ago. No, that was wrong. Kira had not known Amara 3 years ago. That was someone else's hands she was remembering. And Amara's hands had probably shaken at some point in 6 years of running this ship. But Kira had not been present for it, and would not be present for it on the run back from a handoff that had completed clean. Halberd Operations Control had said Amara should not have made it out of the coalition decade alive. Rios had said that out loud 30 minutes ago in front of Marcus. Marcus had not asked Amara to elaborate. Marcus had filed it. Kira had filed it too. The shuttle cycled into the Morning Star's airlock at 2,126. Kira pulled her helmet off in the airlock chamber. The air in the Morning Star tasted the way the Morning Star's air had tasted for 2 years. Recycled, oily, faintly metallic from the housing. Amara pulled her own helmet off, set it on the rack. The pendant came out of her collar. She tucked it inside the flight suit again. Bridge. Yuki was at her console when they came in. Marcus was at his. "Tug clear?" Amara said. "Out of the cluster on the south vector," Yuki said. 16 minutes ago. Their false signal is going to confuse any tracker for another 8 hours. Hours. Holding. Anyone listening on the channel still thinks we're 6 light hours north of here. Engines. Marcus pulled up the engine readout. Devon has the burn ready. Spool to maneuvering on your word. Amara settled into the pilot's seat. "Take us out." The Morning Star began to peel back from the rendezvous point. Thrusters at 6%. The same operational discipline coming in, now going out. Kira watched the forward display. The asteroids on either side passed at the same measured distances they had passed on the way in. Marcus ran a passive sweep every 30 seconds. Yuki held the false signal. The bridge was quiet in the same way the bridge had been quiet on the approach. It was the quiet of a transaction that had completed, of professionals not yet allowing themselves to believe the work had ended well. 11 minutes. 12. The Morning Star cleared the inner cluster. 2 of the larger asteroids were behind them. The exit vector ran between the last hollow refinery hulk and a drifting habitat module. 2 kilometers of clearance on either side. Yuki said, spinning up sensors for the cluster exit sweep. Confirmed. The sensors spun up. Yuki ran the sweep. The sweep was a standard departure protocol. Confirm clear space. Confirm no proximity contacts. Confirm the vector before going to burn. Yuki stopped breathing. Kira heard her stop. The body registered it across the bridge. The absence of the small sound of breath at Yuki's station. The way the silence of a person who had been breathing a second ago was a different silence from the silence of someone who had not. Kira turned. Yuki was looking at her display. Yuki's face had gone the color of the bulkhead. "Captain," Yuki said. "Yuki." "Captain, there is a destroyer." Amara did not turn. "Where?" "Inside the cluster, 5,000 meters off our starboard side, running cold. The hulk between us and them is the only reason they are not in line of sight. They have been here the entire time." Marcus was already moving toward Yuki's station. Kira was already moving toward Yuki's station. Amara's hands had not left the pilot's controls. "Identify." No transponder, no identifiers, no emission signature except passive thermal. The hull profile is military. The mass is too high for syndicate. Yuki's voice was holding by a thread. "They are between us and the exit vector, Captain. We cannot peel out the way we came in without crossing their forward arc." Marcus pulled the sensor data. Read it again. "How long?" Kira said. "I don't know." Yuki, how long? The thermal signature suggests they have been holding station inside the cluster for at least 9 hours, possibly longer, possibly since before we arrived. Kira looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at her. Neither of them said the name. Neither of them needed to. The bridge ran quiet around them in the specific quiet of 5 people who had just understood that the work had not ended well. The credits were in the account. Rios was out of the cluster on his vector. The handoff had completed clean. And the entire time the handoff had been completing, a military-class destroyer with no transponder had been holding station in their blind spot, watching the Morning Star and the buyers tug exchange cargo and credits and handshakes. And that destroyer was now between them and any way out of the cluster that did not involve crossing its forward weapons arc. The destroyer had seen the buyer too. Amara's hand settled on the engine throttle. She did not push it forward. "Yuki." "Captain, tell me what they're doing right now." "Nothing. Holding station. Engines cold. Weapons in standby. They have not turned to face us." "How long until they have to?" Yuki was silent. "Yuki, if we hold position, they hold position. If we move on any vector, they will see us inside 30 seconds. The bridge ran cold. Amara did not move her hand on the throttle. Kira reached down and unsnapped the holster strap on the ceramic blade strapped along the inside of her left forearm. She had not unsnapped that strap in 14 days. The body knew the gesture. The body knew what came next. The body had been telling her something was wrong for 13 hours, and the body had been right, and she had filed every wrongness as fatigue, and the partition was now a continent, and the continent was looking at her, and the third thing was in the ship with her, and a destroyer with no name on it was holding station inside a debris field, 5,000 meters off her starboard side. She watched the void on the forward display. The void was the void. The void had been the void the entire time. "Captain," Marcus said. Amara did not turn. "What do we do?" The dawn cycle was 4 hours away. The morning star was running cold inside a debris field. The destroyer was running cold 5,000 meters away. The buyer was clear of the cluster. The credits were in the account. The cargo was gone. The night had not ended. The night had not even fully arrived. Amara's hand stayed on the throttle. She did not answer. End of Chapter 7. The job completed clean. The credits transferred. The buyer is out of the cluster on a safe vector. None of that matters. A military-class destroyer with no transponder, no identifiers, and no faction markings has been holding station inside that debris field for at least 9 hours, possibly since before the Morning Star arrived. It watched the entire handoff. It watched the cargo transfer. It watched the credits move. And it is between them and every exit vector. Marcus and Kira looked at each other when Yuki named the hull profile. Neither of them said the name out loud. They didn't need to. There is only one organization in this system that runs military-class ships under false silence, in dead clusters, watching jobs they were never supposed to know existed. That organization has been in this story since Chapter 1. The Morning Star is sitting cold in the dark, 5,000 meters from a ship that outguns them by an order of magnitude. Amara's hand is on the throttle. She has not pushed it forward. Chapter 8 opens on this moment. No time skip, no reset. The destroyer is still there, and Amara still has to decide what a captain does when every move she can make is the wrong one. If this is the first chapter you've heard, there are 6 before it. Each one follows a different person being moved toward the same thing by a force none of them can yet name. By the time you reach Chapter 7, having heard all 6, the destroyer in the dark will mean something different than it means right now. Like and subscribe. Chapter 8 is coming soon.